Speaking about sexual identity, will you talk about the three types of women for whom womanliness is a problem?
In the book The Unquiet Heart, Aumann talks a little bit about Steve Clark, and Steve Clark designates three types of women for whom womanliness is a problem. The first type, he says, is the insecure, dependent type of woman. This is a woman who is very passive. This is the kind of woman who really can't make decisions on her own. Woman always needs to be sort of led around. And this might strike some people as being very feminine, because what I talked about before was that, the woman is more receptive and passive. But here, this isn't true femininity, though it might look like it. This kind of woman suffers from a deprivation neurosis, where her assertive drive is not developed and integrated, and she walks around in fear of rejection. She walks around in fear of other people's opinions about her. And this is quite crippling for the woman, who often has to assert herself in daily life with her husband and children and other people. The second type of woman for whom womanliness is a problem is the masculinized woman. And this is a woman who normally she is in a very masculine environment. And what happens is, over time, she comes to take on masculine traits. A typical example would be a woman who, say, is in her early 30s, and she works on Wall Street. And it's a very competitive world. It's a very cutthroat world. And in order to survive in that male environment, she has to take on these masculine traits. It's a willful response. Often this woman will come into Hope Family Resources, and they're usually in their early mid-30s, and they complain. They say, well, why I want to have a boyfriend, and they have a hard time finding men who are attracted to them. And the problem is that they've kind of hardened, that they've taken on these masculine characteristics, these manly characteristics. And what has to happen is the woman needs to be tenderized. She has to have her heart softened. Adding to being in this man environment of men, she may not have a husband, or she may not have a boyfriend. She may not have children. And this also will affect her, because having children or having a husband or at least a boyfriend will soften her, will bring out the womanliness in her. This is quite a problem. Now, the third type of person for whom womanliness is a problem is the ardent feminist. And this kind of person is normally filled with great hate and hatred, bitterness, rage against men. They're quote, men haters. And there's usually a lot of neurosis involved, a lot of repression. Often these women have been abused. But for whatever the reason, this kind of person is full of this scorn toward men, and they act out against men. What these women do is they try to protect themselves, to try to make themselves less vulnerable by hardening themselves, by becoming more manly. And of course it's self-defeating, because becoming more manly, they make themselves less womanly, and they get further and further away from their true nature, what God has intended them to be.